purpose of the session today is all around the hybrid dilemma. So trying to address what we're seeing in the market around both the soft side, the people side of this challenge that lots of businesses are seeing around this mix of home working and office working, both through the people process, the soft side of it, but also underpinned by technology. Now, look, we're not professing to say we're going to fix all the issues, but what we can bring to the table is over the last 18 months, having met a lot of our existing customers, net new customers, and as the market has really evolved since COVID started and now back to this hybrid working, what we're seeing from speaking to a lot of our customers, we've seen patterns, challenges that are now moved from the desk of IT into board members, HR, even people joining today. We see such a breadth of different roles and responsibilities that are all thinking about how do we crack this nut, how do we make our people remove any barriers to come into the office, and how we can do that with technology underpinned. So it's all about equality. We see lots of stories of people saying, I work at home, I get my job done, it's really flexible for me to do so. And suddenly where they're being asked or prompted or coming back into the office, it's the responsibility of the business to try and say, okay, well, we're going to try and remove any barriers. And they're the types of areas that we talk to you today about from a tech perspective, and also some of the softer sides we said. What we've also seen is a mindset change. I talk to a lot of colleagues and other business owners where they say, look, we've come into the office and we've spent 8 hours just doing back-to-back Teams calls, and then I go home again. I could have done that at home. So it's really a mindset change from a people perspective as well, of saying if you do come into the office, video is still absolutely relevant and collaboration, but actually it's kind of going back to why we're in the office. We're here to collaborate, meet other people, meet colleagues, meet peers, etc. And it's really having that, I guess, definition of what the office space brings to people's daily jobs. And finally, what we get out of bed for in the morning is all around high-performing workspace. So we talk about the 3 pillars, one being the hygiene layers. When we talk about network, security, firewalls, even down to your internet lines into your office, things have changed over the last 18 months. We've got so many more devices that are now on the network. Video and voice is becoming so much more prevalent and taking up much more bandwidth. So there's an opportunity at the moment to really take some of those stale contracts. We'll talk more around how we can really bring that up to speed for this modern way of working. And equally talk around voice and video within those spaces and how we can really address that from the physical endpoint as well. So without further ado, Mark, I'm going to start with you on your view. As I said, you're co-founder at Formation. You've been out meeting other board members, lots of businesses particularly in the last 6 months, and you're seeing lots of stories, patterns emerge, as I mentioned. There's this idea, this penned sort of lots of noise going on social at the moment around this idea of the great resignation, doom and gloom. Lots of people are saying, I want to go and work for really inspiring companies. What are you seeing? What are things we could address, and some thought leadership around the hybrid approach from that perspective for the people?
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting one. I think, I got a CV through just the other day from a IT service desk person saying, from the recruitment agent saying, this person wants to change roles because their business doesn't offer any level of remote working. Now, it all comes down to the business. And we've obviously been remote working in these last 18 months as the rest of the world. I think the businesses want to get people back in because the things that we miss remotely are the connections with people, the culture, bringing new people in, whether it be graduates or just new people into roles, and being able to bring people in and collaborate. But invariably in a hybrid world where that means a number of people are on that same day working remotely, the thing that we can influence now, is we can help bring the technology in to enable those people to connect together. And I don't think we can sit here and claim to be the solution to be able to bring all the best talents in and to stop people leaving. What we can do, and I think what's really important from the people we're talking to is not giving people reasons to not come into the office, because where they are working, they have a very familiar way of working from their laptop in an equivalent way, like a lot of people on this, or in fact, you guys are working remotely today on laptops and have the same experience. So as people are coming together, it's about providing technology which can allow people to work in an equivalent way, in a seamless way, wherever they are.
Yeah, sure. Mark, you always use the analogy around sort of British cycling and those percent gains. Talk a little bit about that, how that can be brought in. Like you say, we're not saying rip everything out. It's about small changes.
Yeah, Yeah, I think technology and how it works for businesses can be incremental. I think there's, you know, some of the foundational bits of ensuring networks are up to speed, or ensuring that your meeting rooms are extensions of your team's environment. So, you know, where people come into an office and they're used to just joining a meeting at one press of a button, going into a meeting that was maybe set up for Skype or set up for another more proprietary video system doesn't really work. And so actually bringing friction into that world is really problematic. Now, for some roles, that may not make too much of a difference. For some businesses, depending on what the culture is and what the kind of objective is of that company, equally that may not make so much difference. But on the same basis, depending on whether it's the role of the business you're looking at, all these things are incremental. I think the British cycling analogy is, you know, where they were successful for a number of reasons, but they had this idea of incremental gains of, you know, each 1% adding up to 10, you know, getting these various pieces sorted for the way in which they did things, just move that business along, or that organisation along significantly by just doing those little bits and doing them well.
Yeah, sure. Because I think we've seen you kind of get one shot if you're trying to tempt people back into the office, whether it be 1-2 days a week, whatever the policy is that you know businesses are adopting. If they have a bad experience once, trying to prove them then to say come back and, you know, spend half your day faffing around or having a really crap experience because the bandwidth was terrible in the office. All of those little things, if you can get it right first time, it's going to really encourage people back.
Yeah, it's as much about the pull is the person. I think, as I say, senior leaderships in businesses are very keen on bringing people back in to create this piece. A lot of people have been very successful working remotely and doing their piece, but the more experienced you are in the role, the more you have to offer people outside of your role, and I think that often gets lost in this conversation. And so the environment needs to bring that sort of high-performing working environment, which obviously doesn't just stop in the office. It is working for people wherever they are, but it's giving reasons for people to come in as much as reasons not to come in.
Yeah, no, good point. And by the way, guys, if there's any questions for those on the webinar, please do use the chat feature, and we'll pick them up during and after the session. So do feel free to pose any questions. Mike Gilroy-Scott, nice to see you. Thanks for coming back on. Mike, thanks. Tech being one thing, you know, getting the greatest tech, people have got budget to spend. You know, there's a lot of money being invested in the office and the physical things, the video kit and all that sort of stuff. All well and good. But what, you know, you having talked to lots of IT teams, they're kind of struggling with actually the metrics, the reporting underpin. What are people using? What are you seeing from the more the managed service or the analytics from a lot of this technology, and where's that going from Microsoft and all the other vendors, you know, we're seeing out there?
Yeah, and I think this sort of stems back to the sort of, 18 months ago, everyone was in the office and then we all forced into a sort of remote working role, and most IT teams were, you know, just getting something working was the key thing for them, you know, straight off the bat. And it was like, it's working, we're going, let's just keep on with that. Obviously, 18 months later, wind the clock forward a little bit. Yes, it's working, but do we know what kind of experience our users are having remotely? You know, are they just having a nightmare? Are they not joining calls because their kit's not working, or the experience is bad, or they can't hear, or all those sorts of things? And they're now starting to look to, you know, make that visibility and that kind of user experience something which is, you know, if you've got staff who are excited about using the kit that they've got, they're gonna perform a lot better. So they want them to have a good experience. They don't want to have naff stuff to use that doesn't really work. They want to have the right kit. Now, how do you know people are having good or bad experiences? I mean, there's some statistics that say that about 84% of remote workers who have issues don't actually log a fault because they just think, well, what's the point? So, you know, IT teams are a little bit blind as to what's going on, and it's really important that they can understand what's available from a metric perspective, what information, and that big data can give you really good insights as to what devices your staff are all using. Because if you remember, everyone went home and they just chucked in their AirPods and they worked from home and they were like, fantastic, job done. Wind the clock forward again, people are coming back into the office, they're keeping on with the video meetings, they're using those exact same AirPods to work in the office. Excuse me. And what they're discovering is that they're not sufficient in terms of the noise cancelling on the microphone. So what they're getting is the whole office noise just coming through in their video meetings or their audio meetings, and it's just destroying the experience. So there's lots of things that worked before now don't work now, and you need to take a step back and look at the hybrid strategy where you're going to be working remote and in the office and how that all pieces together.
Yeah, so true. And Mike, you've been doing a lot of work with people like Modality and looking at the, you know, I guess the usage, we've talked before in the webinars around sort of Teams as a whole, and people are using it day in day out, but you kind of don't know if they're using it properly or your infosec's right, and people are sharing documents. There is now information and very deep analytics, if you look at it from the right angle and the right data, to actually give IT teams and board members a real view of that you're spending money on this stuff. You want to make sure it works. So we'll talk about video in a minute and some of the stuff that's come out from Microsoft to how to manage that. But also, what are you seeing from the analytics side of things? And there's been some really good insights from reports we've seen, right, of actually unknown stuff that's going on the network. Yeah,
absolutely. So people deployed Teams very rapidly, as quickly as they could, because it was a solution to their problem. It was a tool that was available through the existing Microsoft licensing they had. So a lot of things went under the radar. So a lot of the usage and governance things that people would usually spend a lot of time setting up to make sure they were in place. You mentioned that InfoSec, that's extremely important. I mean, if you go to any IT manager, you say, how many of your Microsoft teams have just a single owner in it? And they'll be like, well, I don't know. It's like, well, how would you find that out? So that's quite important, because if people leave the business, join the business, if you've got someone who's leaving, you can't remove them as the owner, and you're scrabbling around trying to fix all those problems. But that information is freely available. There's tools to basically float that disaster information, if I could put it, to the top, so you can see what's going on and you can fix those problems. And how many documents do you have in Teams? Do you know who it's shared with? How many of your teams have got guest users who've got access to files in those teams? These are all of the things that IT are starting to think about and trying to stress about, because they don't have the visibility.
Yeah. So yeah, access to your IP is like never before, is so open, isn't it? And it's really about how you control it and manage it and prove to the business that you're making the right strides. So guys, we're going to move on to the three pillars that we start with when we're engaging with businesses, and by no means we have to do this quick bang. You take small incremental steps. Video by far is the hottest topic that all customers are thinking about at the moment. They kind of cracked the Teams. We'll come onto the Teams voice. They've got Teams working on the laptops. Mark, you were in, I think you did a meeting in a fairly corporate senior business a couple of weeks ago. 4 people there, and you're on your video. They're in a lovely plush offices. They were huddled around a single PC, and it's a pretty poor experience, right? So taking that and thinking of that equality theme, where are we now in the video space and the activity, and what's going on of just making that whole thing seamless?
Yeah, well, I think there's a number of points there. I mean, I think that's quite, that situation is quite an extreme example. I think a lot of people have often legacy equipment which doesn't integrate properly, which is probably not much better than all sitting around a single device, if that's what you've got. But I think, to the point we spoke about earlier, in the last 18 months, everyone has been working in an equivalent way. No party in a meeting has had any more or less of a engagement than someone else, because we're all on the same laptop, so we're all effectively seeing the same screen. When you've got 3 people in an office, 3 people working remotely, you need to try and create an environment that is inclusive, because otherwise the people who are in the office tend to have a slightly more engaged and more immersive experience than the people remotely. So I think that Teams enabled rooms is the big thing just now, because firstly, you don't have to train anyone on them, because people know straight away that it's the Teams iconography. You can have the one touch to join experience where the meeting room gets invited into your group. So effectively, as you're booking your virtual room, you're booking your physical room, the virtual room gets along. So it shouldn't matter in that room or that meeting whether someone's physically there or virtually there. And again, if you don't have that kind of technology in place, the next alternative is either to do what you said a moment ago, huddle around the screen, or just go and sit at your desk with a headset. And you might as well be doing that at home if that's what you're going to do all day. And I think the other point is I had another kind of customer asked me the other day. I said, well, to overcome that point, when you're not necessarily having a formal meeting, how do you overcome that very thing, or how do you overcome just sitting at a desk and having an adult conversation? And there's some really interesting technology now which allows you to sort of create sort of virtual boundaries in the audio by which the video kind of works. So if you've got small huddle rooms that are in open places, you can literally create a sort of a band of area which it will pick up audio, and you step out of that and you can't hear it. So if you wanted to have those quick ad hoc meetings with a couple of people, not a formal setting, not on a headset, that kind of technology was a little bit gimmicky, if I'm honest. It's been around for a little while now, but it was one of those things that people use to sell video kit because there's a cool feature you can kind of bring in. but now it actually has relevance. And I think that's the story of video conferencing generally. It's been the next big thing for a long time.
And that's quite an interesting point, Mark, is that, you know, people have offices that are just full of desks, maybe a handful of meeting room spaces. So people are going to come into the office, expect that sort of, they're used to just meeting now with people, just click of a button, away we go. And now they're just running around trying to find meeting rooms. So, you know, do people have to think about what they do with their office space? You know, do they need all that desk space, or actually is it probably better off creating some more collaborative working spaces, you know, huddle rooms, focus rooms, little breakout meeting rooms, those sorts of things. So, you know, it's gone from the days you had the boardroom and then maybe a few other meeting rooms. You know, people need to have that space to be able to have those meetings in person and with remote. So that hybrid experience you've got there. So
yeah. Mike, on that point, and it's something we've seen, and through the access now of Microsoft backend and some of the automation you can do, one of our colleagues just this week created a desk booking system without having to go and spend tens of thousands of pounds on a whole new booking system. Talk to us about what Microsoft are doing to enable some of this, you know, taking all of the APIs, all the access they have. Little things like that are really going to help some businesses just get a grip on who's coming in, what desks are available, what rooms are available, and it's all kind of done within Teams, right? It's pretty good.
Exactly. I mean, it's, you know, it's the new challenge. You know, you've got this kind of like, how do we make sure we don't get too many people in the office? How do we make sure that there's enough desks for the people who want to come in? And how do we make sure that when we go in, we've got it booked and there's visibility and you can report on that? You know, some people's answer to that may be, oh, we've got to go out and buy an HR system that has that feature enabled into it.
Yes,
sorry, I just saw the question. How can it be done?
Talk to us high level.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we were quite excited about it. You know, so we used Teams Power Apps to build an app that runs within Teams, allowing us to just literally click a tab in a channel and just book our desk, select the day, select the time range you're in there, and away you go. And you've got it in there, and you've got a dashboard and everything, so you can see which desks are free, which aren't. So yeah, it was really easy to do. You know, we were happy to talk to people about getting this sort of thing set up, and we didn't have to spend thousands of pounds on development or an HR application to achieve it.
Yeah, so yeah, Stephen, we'll absolutely follow up with that, and these are the little quick wins and sort of, you know, the knowledge that we're bringing outside of just doing sort of rudimental Teams projects, if you will. It's all the extra stuff that comes with it.
And just that point, you know, the peripheral kind of power apps piece of Microsoft, which is from outside of what a lot of IT people see or maybe get interested in, it's fairly low code as well. It's not, you know, you need to have someone who understands, you know, relative logic of how things work. But I think from a programming level, you know, it's not a language you need to go and spend a long time, you know, learning and mastering. You know, it's a logical approach, which actually, because it's in Teams and bringing it natively into Teams, it's you know, from a user point of view, it's quite beneficial.
Yeah, good. I see. You know, Tom is a very big whiz, Mark. So don't downplay it. He did a lot of work on that. So I know he's on the call today. So yeah, so video. You know, Polycom or Poly, as they're now called, Logi, they're all in this race, and you know, video has never been so fastly developed. You know, every week there's new technology, and it's all almost on the pace of Microsoft. So, Mike, final comment on video. Where do you see it in the next sort of 3 months going? What's the solid part? We talked about monitoring. What have Microsoft recently done around that whole keeping the lights on, alerting when it goes? There's nothing worse than a CEO walking to boardroom doesn't work and IT get a massive kick in for it, don't they?
Yeah, so you know, obviously now we're getting this kind of this extremely important tech in your office. You know, the last thing you want is for people who've made that effort to get on a train, travel into the office, come in for the big meeting, get in there, press the button, and guess what? It's not working, or the camera's not working, or someone's changed the HDMI input or something like that. So, you know, it's really important that you know that kit is going to work first time every time, and if there is a problem, you know about it at midnight on a Sunday night, not first thing Monday morning for that important meeting. So, you know, it's really important you think about how you're going to be aware, how you keep that up to date, how you keep the configuration correct, how you resolve issues when they happen. And, you know, thankfully, there are a lot of really good tools that you can use that automate all of this. So you don't need a whole team of techs to go around the meeting rooms at 7 a.m. just to make sure they're all working. So you can do all of those. That can all be scripted and monitored. So you know there's a problem before it happens without the heavy investment in staff.
So specifically, I think there's a few caveats. It has to be a Windows-based device, but Microsoft themselves, there is a service that we can provide that gives you alerting, like you say, down to the level of which port's been changed and things like that. So it's really insightful and help you sort of keep your video service online for your users, because that's, you know, like we said, if you get it wrong once, people are going to moan, and it's kind of hard to convince them otherwise. We're going to touch upon, we've done lots of webinars on Teams Voice, and we're not going to, for the folks that come regularly, but we're just going to touch around it, the last bastion. You know, we're seeing everyone's got their video and collaboration story sort of nailed. Now people are coming back to the office where they might have been working on mobile phones at home. It's kind of done its job, but they're now realizing actually voice plays a massive part. Not necessarily for everyone anymore, because some internal folks that never need to talk to the outside world, they've got to go, well, I don't need a DDI, I don't need to talk to people, but there still will be percentages of your business that need to talk to clients, have customer meetings outside of video. It's kind of that ad hoc, I just need to call this business, I'm going to ring them through my Teams client. Mike, I'm going to direct this one to you. Teams Voice, I know we hammer it home all the time. Direct routing, big part of it, but just expand for the people that are joining first time. What are we doing? What's our value add around Team Voice? Not just switching the lights on and getting some SIP trunks, but everying else around that. Things like third-party integration.
So yeah, a lot of companies are used to subbing out their sort of management of their phone system. They've got a company that installs it, configures it, manages it, and supports it. And which is traditionally what we've done as a company as well around, and we provide a managed service around that as well. We wanted to replicate that with Microsoft Teams. Now you can just go to a carrier or a provider and buy your Teams direct routing as a service and just plug it in, off you go. But you are missing some really key things here. So things like number porting, they're really, it's a dark art. You need to kind of know what you're doing with these things. You know, how do you configure the Teams tenant? You know, do you understand all the terminologies? Do you know the difference between a call queue and an auto attendant? All these sorts of things. So we bring a service that sort of wraps around all of that. We do the training and adoption, which we feel is an absolutely key component of this. You know, there's no point just switching it on, but your users don't know how to use the voice. Yes, it's very intuitive, but the art of the onboarding is really just explaining how it interacts with the rest of the collaboration ecosystem, with your Outlook calendar and your status and all of those sorts of things, your delegation and how you can manage your own calls. It's very user-centric as opposed to admin-centric. So you're giving a lot of power of the voice to the user in terms of how they make and receive and take calls. Yeah. And and then, you know, other things that don't come with Teams Voice, you know, the reporting packages, the contact centers, the call recording, you know, all of these things need to be thought about, and you can't just buy those things off the shelf. So, you know, we will look at it as take a holistic viewpoint of how that whole estate, you know, do you need any kind of on-prem services? Do you have an estate of, you know, analog conference phones you need to keep because you don't want to buy new ones because it's going to cost you a fortune? Yes, there are solutions to that, and we can provide all these bespoke devices to support all of those legacy equipment. Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of, we're at this weird sort of meeting point at the moment, aren't we, where we're seeing lots of traditional IT vendors that look after the Office 365 estate kind of getting into voice, having in the past very much avoided it. We're coming out from the other side of being voice specialists, also having a lot of knowledge in Microsoft, and it goes away of actually the projects that we've rolled out where old PBX used to take 3-6 months to roll out and get real adoption. We're doing Teams projects now in 4 to 6 weeks, and they're, you know, very well received. People are already using it, but it's just understanding the nuances of how it works. And kind of a geeky thing, Mike, the DID management, it was something that came out of the wash in an early one for 12 months ago, but they're the kind of, just quickly give us a story before we move on to the hygiene layer piece around why that's important, and just one thing that to consider when you're doing Teams Voice.
Yeah, I mean, when you use the technology direct routing, what that means is you're bringing your own carrier service. So you're not buying your calls and lines from Microsoft. One of the sort of offshoots of that is that Microsoft don't know what telephone numbers you have. So although you can configure the users with a number, etc., and that appears in the Teams tenant, there's no simple way to see which numbers are allocated to who. You know, you're sitting there exporting users to a CSV, then modifying the CSV to get it. Then you're like, oh, what about my resource accounts? And then you're like, what numbers are associated to that? So there's a bit of a faff involved in doing that. Now we provide a reporting package for Teams that has a very simple module that literally queries the Graph API, sees which users and resource accounts have numbers, presents in a lovely little web interface. You can see at a glance your DDI ranges and how much capacity you've got in each of those, and just very quickly assign new DDIs. and it does it automatically. So you don't need to update it. It updates itself automatically at midnight every night.
So it's just those little, going back to that percent game, those little things that you think, okay, I'm moving from a PBX traditional way of working to Teams. It is slightly different from a voice perspective, and it's really about just those little things you kind of miss, and where we can add some value and really help it be a seamless environment. Mark, I'm going to move now to the hygiene layer. I'm going to just refer back to you. So, you brought the phase around Moore's law. During lockdown, we saw a hell of a lot of stale contracts in terms of the underpin network, the hygiene layer. Talk to us about what Moore's law is and why that's important right now, where bandwidth and network is a critical, fundamental part, specifically in the office, and people are equally accessing stuff remotely.
Yeah, I mean, you read some articles, and people are saying the speed of technology, Moore's law, is now completely obsolete because it's just moving so quickly. And actually, it used to be about sort of double the compute and half the price. But I think we started talking about that sense because we were talking to a number of customers who, the last 18 months, haven't done a lot with their office infrastructure because they haven't need to, and they've also been massively focused on moving everything to the cloud, getting the users working remotely, and they've run IT teams ragged by doing that, and obviously business IT budgets thin for having to buy hundreds of laptops and devices to kind of support them may not have been in budget. But yeah, the kind of analogy around Moore's law was the fact that there's a lot of connectivity out there, and this is a key piece to the modern office, to the kind of high performing office or workplace, is that people are coming back and they are basically needing more bandwidth because there's different traffic, different cloud providers. There's a lot more video traffic. There's a lot more potentially voice traffic that's going over the internet as well now. And it's about saying, well, you can often look at the basic layer of the starting point of the office is what are you spending on that connectivity? How much have you got? And in that time, if you've not looked at it in the last 18 months, chances are that you're going to get a lot more for your money. Maybe try some out for half the price. I mean, it depends on what your contract's like at the moment. But pushing that through to the rest of the network. When you're looking at what the firewall does, obviously that's the first and last point of security for an office. But more importantly, in this world we're in now, the ability to optimize traffic. To be able to say, well, if I don't have enough bandwidth, or I'm peaking, or things get a little busy, I want to make sure that my Teams traffic is the thing that happens, or my Zoom traffic, or whatever those real-time communication pieces are that enable people to work. You have that problem at home with kids on half term playing like Fortnite and things. Personal experience that I have, and it will suck the bandwidth out of your broadband. That's a business problem and your problem. But coming into the office, you expect that stuff to be known, managed, and dealt with. And I think all the way through, from the area we get involved with, so the pieces we talked about today have really been about the user experience, about consistently working in the same way in the meeting room, the office, the cafe, and at home, which is really fundamentally about teams. That's really where we pin our position on that. But then when it's the bit that people don't see unless it isn't working, that is also key to this. The network the network, the midpoint where you can prioritize applications, and the network and the Wi-Fi point that runs around. Because I think a point you made in introduction was, a lot of people have come back now with 2 or 3 more devices than they left the office with. For whatever reason, they've done that in the last 18 months. Maybe not paying for their tube and bought an iPad. But there are people who have now got a lot of connections, laptops, iPads, iPhones, and iPhones that are going to potentially saturate access points and create those problems as well. So that's on a foundation layer is quite key, I feel.
So on that then, Mike, in terms of we're seeing a lot of enhancements in software-defined networks. We work with Fortinet as a software stack. Just talk about the fundamentals of the way they approach, because it's kind of starting at the security layer, managing the fabric through the LAN and the access points. Just talk about quickly some areas that we're helping businesses there from that perspective, from that single pane of glass. Yeah,
so Fortinet will, our security provider that we use and we recommend, is that they for many reasons. I mean, the Gartner Magic Quadrant for SD-WAN and security sort of leaders in that sense. So they're a good partner to work with, but they also have a LAN and wireless network stack as well. The whole thing together operates across what we call a security fabric. Now, what that means is, well, everyone's used to creating security on the firewall. But what's clever about what Fortinet have achieved is through firewall, through switch, through access point, the policies you create on the firewall edge pervade all the way down through the switches to the wireless access points to the point where the device is connected and authenticating through into the network. So you've got a really good security situation there, and just the ability to manage what's going across, the visibility, the configuration. It's all centrally managed, so you're not having to connect to different touch points. I mean, that's more a problem for the IT teams, but that kind of evaporates. But also because that security fabric is all coming through the centralized point, we've got visibility all the way through the network to do analytics and reporting, because we can gather all those metrics and those statistics of what's going on. So you could just say, well, how much TikTok traffic have you got on your network? And we can go, well, we can tell you. We can tell you which devices that's all coming from. So if you go, right, we can block this, that, and the other, you're going to get yourself 50 meg more bandwidth without having to buy more bandwidth. So it's not so much that your video is increasing your bandwidth, it's all of the other traffic, the YouTubes, all the other things that tick around in the background, people's Instagram feeds, etc. It's all incrementally eating up that bandwidth, and you can very quickly just strip that out, and you'll just get a better performing network as a result.
Yeah, so it comes back to that. It really is, that's the starting point of the hygiene layer, and we're seeing switch stacks that used to be core and edge just massively reduced, where you're not having to PoE a bunch of handsets that are gathering dust anymore because it's all software. So access points down to security layer. And like you say, and we talked about that visibility and that analytics and management, see what's going on in your network, fine tune it and make sure that it's as seamless as possible.
That's an important point. So just very quickly,
no, go for it.
I know we're running out of time. Is that, a lot of offices used to have a phone on every desk. People are moving to sort of software-based platforms. And there's two things that happen there. One, you mentioned the switches. You don't need as many anymore, because you used to have either a separate set of switches for your phones, or you just had, you've got half as many devices now, so you can maybe reduce your switch footprint as well. The other thing is that because everything's coming through your PC rather than a separate device, traditionally where you would optimize voice traffic on a voice VLAN and prioritize it, make sure that there's no other noise on it so you get good voice quality, the lines are blurred now because data is mashed in with your voice. So you've suddenly got a very different challenge about optimizing your voice and video, because it's all mixed together with all the other traffic that's going on. So it's just something to be aware of.
No, and very relevant. So just to recap on the session, we're at the, coming to the end of it now. So we've talked about, looking at the people side of the business. We're not saying that we're, by any means have cracked the hybrid working from getting people back in and all of the personal reasons that people will or won't come back. What we can help and what we are helping customers with is about that equality, making sure you get the little incremental gains, get the hygiene layer right, the video experience and the voice experience seamless, so it removes that blocker to people coming in the office when they do come. And it's kind of our approach is if you do it, people may still leave a mass resignation, but if you don't do it, you're more likely that you're going to come across those problems. So as a final wrap up, what we look to do is we're engaging, if there's those little things, even the big meeting room automation within Teams. If you guys on this webinar now are thinking about these problems, want to have a, even a conversation about what we're seeing, have a personal follow-up, we recorded the session, we'll be sending it out after. We like to get feedback, so we'll be reaching out to the folks that have joined just to get some feedback, understand sort of your challenges in the business, and as I say, if nothing else, we can give you some ideas, what we're seeing in the market, see what your competition are doing, and hopefully help you along this journey, along those 3 points: the hygiene layer, so that's your network, your internet lines, and your firewalls, and all your security policies. Moving up to the voice in Teams, if that's something you're actively looking at and you want to look at that peripheral piece. Finally finish with the video and making that an awesome experience in the office as well as at home. So look, thank you very much. I really appreciate you all taking time out of your day on a Thursday to join us. As I said, the next session will be mid-December, a little Christmas present for you to learn more around all things Microsoft Stack and other areas as well. And thank you very much. We'll keep the bridge open for the next 5 minutes if anyone has any questions. But have a lovely time, and season's greetings when it comes to the 1st of December.